Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. There have been a number of elections, notably in Mozambique. And we've seen on the social media a number of Zimbabweans posting that they had registered as Mozambican nationals, got Mozambican IDs, and registered to vote and did vote in those elections. This is totally unacceptable. Zimbabweans should not interfere in any way in another country's election. We have seen these allegations being made about Botswana, which are also holding their elections, that Zimbabwe has been interfering in those elections. This is totally unacceptable. It is therefore refreshing to hear that somebody in parliament, the Zimbabwe parliament, has raised this issue. This is a matter of grave concern to only people in Zimbabwe, but in the whole region. Here is the gentleman in question asking questions in parliament.
Tenda mubati wechigaro. Mubvunzo wangu unoenda kune kurukota runotungamira bhizimisi rehurumende. Nekuti mubvunzo unobata vose vakadaro muhurumende. Hurongwa hupi huri kuitwa nehurumende kuongorora nokugadzirisa kunyunyuta kwatava nemavhiki tichihwa kubva kunyika dzinosanganisira ana Namibia, Botswana neMozambique. Avo kwavanonyunyuta kuti kune rimwe bato remunyika ino rinozikamwa nehukopokopo nehumbavha hwamaelection. Oja garapasi. Oja onare. Ukushandisa na Satani. Deva GUMBO'S. Bato ile honorable Gumbo. Oja wabata ne demon. Mother. Oja honorable wabata ne demon.
As we can see, the gentleman was shouted down. The gentleman in question's name is Gumbo. He is one of the opposition, the CCC MPs. Benjamin, what's your take on this one?
Good day to everybody. Thank you for having me on the show. You know, when you have a rotten tomato in a basket, you know, the best move or the best idea you can come up with is to remove that rotten tomato so that it doesn't spread and rot the others. This is an advice to SADC. Sometime last year, if I'm not mistaken, before the 2023 elections, you know, I think we covered a story where Zimbabwean nationals were being given identification documents from, you know, from Mozambique. You know, and we actually said that is not right. If you remember that program that we aired, you know, to say this is a ZANU-PF mission you know, already at play. This is how Zanu PF, you know, runs the show. And the Mozambican government officials came into Zimbabwe and were giving out these national identifications to Zimbabweans registered to vote. And we said this is not right. Lo and behold, nothing was done about it. And now here we are, Zimbabweans, those that took the national documents of Mozambique, went and voted in Mozambique. The rot has set in. We saw, you know, South Africa, you know, Zimbabwe, you know, Zimbabwe Zanu PF party being chased away from South Africa when, you know, they were campaigning. The South African, you know, people refused to say, why is Zanu PF having a hand in our elections? The rot has set in. And if SADC does not remove the bad tomato, it is going to spread throughout, and it is already starting to spread throughout the whole of Africa.
I totally agree with you, Benjamin. I think this is really tragic that it is happening. We saw it coming. We warned that it will happen, and now it's happening. But I think the other important point to notice here is that we have got our friends in the opposition trying to get mileage out of this. We have said on this platform that the opposition should not have participated in last year's elections because they knew the process was flawed. They knew that by participating, they would give Zanu PF legitimacy. And what is more, even after Sadc and the AU election observers had condemned last year's elections as flawed and illegal, Comrade Gumbo and his colleagues went on to take up their seats, be it in local government, in the Senate, or in Parliament. And by so doing, they gave legitimacy to the regime. That is a point that cannot be denied. And so now I personally see this as just the opposition posturing, trying to make a name for himself. That I was asking tough questions in Parliament, knowing fully well that it is all posturing. As we heard in that video clip, he was shouted down. The matter was, Parliament never took it seriously. This is the trend that we've seen happening in Zimbabwe over and over again. We have got to make tough decisions here. Are we going to keep on pretending that something is changing when we know nothing is changing? I think that is the question that I believe Zimbabweans must now address.
You know, the keyword that you use there, and I think, you know, keywords that you use there, you know, in your previous statement is, we warned that Zanu PF will rig the 2023 elections. here we are warning again that ZANU PF is going to rig the 2028 elections. Come hell, come sunshine. You know, it doesn't help for us to be right the day after the election. It is already too late. This is why, you know, we are saying, look, if they can do it, and you know, in other countries, and are reaching now in other countries to manipulate, you know, the democracy or the, you know, democratic process of another country, what is to stop them from, you know, undermining democracy in our own country? ZANU PF is known for rigging elections. ZANU PF is going to rig the 2028 elections. That is a fact. We can never change that. Us participating in rigged elections is giving the process legitimacy. It is showing that, you know, we are agreeing to the process. And then we cannot then cry the next day to say, you know, ZANU PF, you know, rigged the elections and so forth and so forth. And we were gathering evidence and all that. It's too late. You given away, you know, the only card that you had. You have shown it away. ZANU PF is going to rig the 2028 elections. What are we going to do about it?
I'm just going to play a short clip of Mnangagwa insisting that ZANU-PF won the 2023 elections, and more significantly, dismissing with contempt those saying that the elections were not free, fair, and credible.
Vana vakatuka ZANU-PF kana ini ndonyanyisa kufara kuita zvakanaka. Ukavona vavengi vako vachikurumbidza unenge uchikanganisa. Ukavona vachiti ZANU-PF yakaipa, farai. You are doing correct things for your country. Homu takaita maelections edu kuna vamwe vaitaura zvisina musoro zvikanzi maelections anafamba zvakanaka ndezvavo.
That is the language and the belief of the men we are dealing with here. ZANU-PF believes the elections were free, fair, and credible. And all the other comments from anybody else saying the contrary, they're dismissing them with contempt. That is the reality. That is on the one side. On the other side, we have the opposition who keep on participating in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating they're giving ZANU-PF legitimacy, but they keep participating out of greed. That's on the other hand. But I think this whole situation could have been ended by now if the MDC-CCC supporters were not so blind and ignorant that they keep participating on the basis of blatant lies, like I've plugged all the vote-rigging loopholes. When they know, when they've been told that that is a lie, and when they've been told that if you participate, you're giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. I believe Sadc would have denied ZANU-PF political legitimacy if CCC supporters had not participated in last year's elections in their millions. Nearly 2 million people voted for CHAMISA last year, according to the SADC results. This does not speak to the millions of other Zimbabweans out there, particularly in the diaspora, who, although they didn't vote, they still supported the process. We cannot keep on participating in a flawed elections on the basis of an idiotic lie like I have plugged all the vote ranking loopholes. That is dumb. And as you correctly pointed out there earlier on, Benjamin, we are now looking at 2028. If the same people participate in the 2028 elections in their millions, I think SADC will find it very difficult to deny ZANU-PF legitimacy. That is the reality that we have got to face and deal with.
I agree. It's 2028 may seem far, but it's it's not very far. I mean, we can see the wheels are in motion, towards going to the participation, in rigged elections in 2028. We are seeing it all over again. CHAMISA is back. He is hinting on a more powerful, organization and so forth. Let's forget about what happened before. This one is the right, is the right movement. And we the same story. And unfortunately, a lot of people are buying into this idea. The bottom line is ZANU-PF will not just at the end, stop their shenanigans. ZANU-PF will rig the 2028 elections. ZANU-PF are preparing to rig those elections. The wheels are already in motion. All they just needed is for us to play along and fulfill the script. And that's game over, for us. Another 5 years with ZANU-PF at the helm. I mean, I hope it's not only me, but I can't see Zimbabwe going through another 5 years after this one and coming out, unscathed. It's just going to be disastrous. We need to stop this nonsense of participating in rigged elections. We need to stop being easily conned into believing false, or messages of false hope that we are going to win big. How do you win big in rigged elections? The game is already set and played. You are just there to legitimize the process. Nothing more, nothing less. We need to put our act together.
I was just going to play a short clip of Dr. Neves Mumba, who was the chairperson of the SADC election observer team in the 2023 elections. And this is his advice to the people of Zimbabwe.
Said to me, Mr. Vice President, go on behalf of SADC, and all I expect from you is to help to give the Zimbabweans a free, fair, and credible election. Those are the only, he said it twice. I need nothing from you, Mr. Vice President, but free, fair, and credible election. You would have done your job. When I was in Zimbabwe, and we were on our way to go and see President Mnangagwa to pay a courtesy call on him, I contacted the president here, President Hakainde Hichilema. I said, Mr. President, we are going to see your colleague. Do you have a word for him? Any greeting, whatever? He said, no. The only thing you tell my colleague is that let's go ahead and give the Zimbabweans a free, fair, and credible election. He repeated the same words. So there was one.
I think that message could not be any more clearer. Unfortunately, we failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. And now Zimbabwe is taking it upon itself to undermine or deny other nations the opportunity to hold free, fair, and credible elections. This must be condemned in the strongest of languages, but also we must condemn the opportunism, the political posturing by the opposition, who insisted in participating in flawed elections to give ZANU-PF legitimacy, so that now they can start posturing as if they can make a difference. This has got to stop. And the people of Zimbabwe themselves must be wise enough to realize that the opposition is no longer fighting in the ordinary people's corner, in Povo's corner. I think somebody said that the opposition is ZANU-PF Team B in all but name. They are playing to give ZANU-PF electoral victory and to give ZANU-PF political legitimacy. And in return, they get a few gravy train seats, which they then take up. We, the people of Zimbabwe, have got to be smart enough to realize what's going on and put an end to this madness.
I agree with you. It's time that we put this whole vote rigging to bed. Nothing has changed from the 2023 elections. Nothing has changed from the 2018 elections. What we need to do now is to stop participating in rigged elections. Hold whoever comes up to say, we are going to win big, and ask them the question, what have you done to ensure that the process is legitimate? What have you done? What has changed from the previous election? If there is no answer, because there is nothing that has changed, we make our decision from there. Let us not just follow whoever comes and says, let us go and we will win big. And it is impossible to win rigged elections. 24 years of MDC, Triple C is evidence enough to show that you will never win rigged elections. How we can still go on to 2028 and participate in those elections, thinking that we will have a different outcome, is sheer madness. Because only a fool will do, the same thing over and over again and hope that there will be a different outcome. Only a foolish man would do that. So I urge each and every one of us to start asking for accountability from those that are in public office. Ask questions. Let us not just be gullible and naive and quickly follow just because they have a sweet voice or they are charming and all that. That is not what leadership is all about. Leadership qualities are beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. And to the listeners, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope you'll be able to do it again tomorrow. It will be 7 o'clock UK time, which will be 8 o'clock Zimbabwe time. Thank you and have a good day.